he is joining the session or not? Don't know. Anyway, you see, in case of human respiratory system, first of all, so what is respiratory system? So that is a network of organ and tissue that help us to breathe. There is a difference between breathing and respiration. Okay. So breathing is what? That is the gases exchange, nothing more than that, right? What is respiration? Respiration, we talk about the cellular respiration. Okay. So the primary function of the respiratory system is what? That is the exchange of the respiratory gases. And eventually it ends up with the cellular respiration where energy is produced. So that's very clear. It works closely with the circulatory system, takes up oxygen from air and supply it to blood, and also removes the carbon dioxide that is produced during the cellular respiration. So it regulates blood pH. It also regulates blood oxygen and carbon dioxide level. So that is the function of the respiratory system. So first we will talk about that what are the respiratory organs. So in that series, we will be speaking about that starting from nose to lungs, what are the organ that falls in between. And finally, we will concentrate more on the lungs because that is the area where the respiration is actually happens. Okay. So please take a note of it.
Done, sir.
Right. So as I told you, first we will talk about the respiratory organs. So it starts from nasal cavity, throat, larynx, trachea, bronchi, alveoli, and lungs. Okay. So if you talk about the pathway of inhaled air, so start with a nasal cavity, then it goes to pharynx, that is the throat, followed by larynx, that is the voice box. Then we have epiglottis. Through the trachea opens, then bronchi, then bronchioles, and finally the alveoli, right? So these are the path of the inhaled air. Okay. So right on this, one by one, we will discuss about, in very brief about all this structure. They clear?
Done, sir.
So have a look at this. So there are some conducting zone and respiratory zone. So we call nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. Till this, there is a conducting zone. So what is the conducting zone? Basically, this is the area where meant for the passage of the gases. And there is a respiratory zone where actually exchange of gases is going to happen. Then it includes the alveolar duct and alveoli, right? You can see in the diagram also. So nose, pharynx, larynx, then we have a trachea, then bronchi, okay, and bronchi finally entering into the lungs, okay. So please write down that there are two zones. One is the respiratory system having two zones. One is the conducting zone and second is the respiratory zone, okay.
Sir, should we draw the diagram as well?
No, no, not a problem.
Okay, sir. Done, sir.
Done, okay. Then you see nasal cavity, you know. So air enter the nostrils, and we know very well within the nostril, it is going to be filtered by air, warmed, humidified, and that is also going to be sample for odor, right? So the nasal cavity follows to the pharynx or throat. So, you know, throat is a common passage for air as well as the food, right? So it functions by preventing the entry of food particles into the windpipe. So you know very well when you swallow the food, at that time the windpipe is actually being closed. So simultaneously you cannot swallow or take and breathe. That is not possible. So the epiglottis, it is an elastic cartilage which serves as a switch between the larynx and the esophagus by allowing the passage of air into the lungs and food in the gastrointestinal tract. So anatomically, what we can do, we can divide this pharynx into three parts, what we call nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. In the next, I will show you the diagram. So mind it, nasopharynx is actually made up of pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium. That is about nasopharynx. But as far as the oropharynx is concerned, that is made up of stratified squamous epithelium. Mind it, the difference in terms of the tissue. The first two is made up of pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium, but the later one is made up of squamous epithelium. Okay. Please take a note of it.
Yes, sir. Done, sir.
Okay. Now larynx, you know, that is present with a reinforced cartilage. Basically, it contains a vocal cord. And, you know, whenever there is going to be a high pitched sounds, so these are present in case of the female voice. Female voice are with a high pitched sounds. And high pitch means high frequency. Okay. And in case of low pitched, what happens? Vocal cords are relaxed, vibrate slowly, right? And that is going to happen in case of male, right? And the more prominent that is going, that the Adam's apple, that is found in case of the male. Okay. So this was the larynx. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Please note it.
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
Adam's apple is present only in males, right?
Right.
Done, sir.
Done. Okay. So you see, next we will talk about the trachea. That is a windpipe, right? So that rises below the larynx and moves down to the neck. Now what happens? It consists of C-shaped the structure or cartilaginous ring, right? And that is going to give them the hardness to the trachea, and they also helps them in preventing the tube, or in other words, it helps in maintaining their structure. Okay. Now the trachea extends further down into the breastbone, and finally it splits into two bronchi. You can see in the diagram also. So they are splitting into two bronchi, right? Okay, one for each lungs. So basically it consists of what? All these rings. So they have a mucosa, goblet cells that produce mucus. Cartilaginous rings, already told you, extend to the tracheal walls. They have a submucosa, right? It is, you can see in this diagram. So that is the anatomical structure, you know. So the outer, what we call adventitia, followed by cartilage, followed by submucosa and mucosa. Now, in case of mucosa, what happens? There is a goblet cells. You know very well that goblet cell produce the mucus. Okay. And then in case of submucosa, there is going to have a loose connective tissue, the blood vessels, neuron glands, right? And as far as the adventitia is concerned, they are connective tissue, blood vessels, and they hold trachea and the chest cavity, right? So that is the anatomical structure. Important is the mucosa and the submucosa. Okay, please note it.
Done, sir.
Okay. Then you see, have a look at the bronchi. So once the membrane divides, this trachea divides, the first branch is called 1 degree primary bronchi. When it's further divided, then 2 degree secondary bronchi, then further 3 degree secondary, tertiary bronchi. So all these are supplied with the mucosa, cartilage plates, and smooth muscles, right? So each bronchus leads into lungs and branches into smaller and smaller bronchioles, resembling inverted tree, as you can see in the diagram. Okay. So if you see the this transverse section, what we see, there is a mucosa, there is a cartilage plate and smooth muscles. That is found in case of the bronchus. Please note it.
Done, sir.
Okay. So then bronchioles. So this the allow passage of the air, muscle layer constrict bronchioles. So the epithelium of the bronchioles is covered with cilia and mucus. So what is the function of the mucus? Mucus trap dust and other particles. Okay. So that is the bronchioles. Then they also have a ciliary skeleton. So very function of the cilia is that they beat upward and remove the trap particles so that the passage should be smooth for the passage of air. Okay. That about the bronchioles. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the bronchioles is going to terminate into balloon-like structure that is actually called as a alveoli, right? Now, यहाँ पे ध्यान देना, you see, alveoli consist of two type of cells. Okay. Or in the alveoli, what happens? There is a alveolar macrophage. Macrophage is a such cells that is going to catch hold of anything that is undisturbing in the present over there. So the two type of cells are known as type 1 and type 2 alveolar cells. Okay, that is also known as pneumocytes. So type 1 and type 2. So these are the things that is going to make this make up the walls and the alveolar septa. So type 1 cell provides 95% of the surface of each alveoli. So basically it is the type 1 cells, right? That performs the main functions. Okay. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Done, sir.
Done? Okay. So you see, have a look at this diagram. You can see there, this is the type 1 cell and this is the type 2 cell, right? And these are the two most important things that is going to present in case of alveoli. Okay. Now type 1 cells, they do not divide, right? They rather depend upon the type. It is the type 2 that differentiate into type 1. Okay. Now type 2 cells are larger. They line the alveoli and secrete surfactant. Surfactant is very important because without it, the gases exchange cannot happen. So type 2 cells are able to divide and differentiate into type 1 cells. Okay. In addition to that, alveolar macrophages are very, very important immunological role because this is the macrophage that is going to destroy any foreign particle, be it a virus or bacteria or anything that disturbs in the very process of respiration. So they remove substances which deposit in the alveoli, including the loose rare RBC. Okay. So during the process of respiration, they may be forced out of the blood vessels. So actually, it is also being reduced. Okay. Understood.
Yes, sir.
Done, sir.
Okay. So now we will talk about that how the gases exchange is going to happen. Mind it, gases exchange is going to happen by the very process of diffusion. Okay. So what are the things that actually favors the process of gases exchange? First of all, have a look at this diagram. Now you see, this is the alveoli and this is the blood level. Okay, or blood or the layer of the blood capillaries. Have a look. This the thickness is just 0.2 to 0.6 micrometer, very thin. So they are thin walled, so that allow rapid movement of gas across the surface. Now they are richly supplied with the blood vessels, so thereby it allows efficient transport of the gases, large surface area, right? And they are moist. Since they are moist, they allow diffusion of the gases in solution form. So diffusion is always going to happen in the solution form. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Done, sir.
Done. Okay. So let's have a look at the structure of the lungs. We know very well humans has the two lungs, or right lung and a left lung. You can see in the diagram as well. So where they are situated? They are situated in the thoracic cavity of the chest. Now this thoracic chamber is formed dorsally by the ventral column and ventrally by the sternum, laterally by the ribs. You know very well it is protected within the ribs, and on the lower side by the diaphragm. So these are the locations of our lungs. Okay, you can see this is on the lower side is a diagram, is a diaphragm, right? Now the anatomical setup of lungs in thorax is such that any change in the volume of the thoracic cavity will be reflected in the lung. Okay. So this arrangement actually facilitate the very good process for the breathing. Okay. So please note it.
Yes. Sir, written.
Okay. Now you see, the right lung is bigger than the left. Important neat question often asked. So the right lung has a 3 lobes and the left has a 2. We know very well each lung is covered by double layered pleural with within them there is the pleural fluid, and the basic objective is to provide the protection. So it reduces friction on the lung surface. Now the outer pleural membrane is in close contact with the thoracic lining, whereas the inner pleural membrane is in contact with the lung surface. Okay.
Yes, sir. Done, sir.
Done? Okay. So that is all as far as the entire structure of the lungs is concerned. Okay. So in the next, what we need to do, we need to understand the very process of respiration. ठीक है? तो ये फिर हम लोग अगले क्लास में करते हैं, right?
Yes, sir.
कोई क्वेश्चन है आपका? Any question you want to ask? Any question?
Not yet, sir.
चलो फिर. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.